The gentleman that was interviewing me is at CG3 Music.
Are you an AI?
He approached me and said, hey, could I interview you, do some stuff for my Instagram? That clip that went viral was probably his 8th or 9th attempt to...
Hey, everybody. It's William Hegman again. Welcome to another episode of Zero to Elite podcast. Today, we're going to be interviewing Robert Lambertino, or you guys may have seen him on Instagram in a viral video. His username is frog_visage. We'll post that in the caption when we post this episode. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing good. It's been a long day so far, but I'm looking forward to having a productive and informative conversation with you today.
Yeah, we are as well. So let's just jump right into it, man. So I met Robert on an online post. It was a clip that went viral. I saw it. I was intrigued. I commented, and for like days, nobody responded to anything or nobody responded at all to my comment. And then you just happened to pop up on it and say, hey, it's me. And then from there, we just got to talking. So I want to jump right into that. For you guys that don't know, Robert was, I think it was an interview, and I'll ask you that question here in a second, but Robert was in a clip that went viral on Instagram. We will post a link to that as well. Where you guys were, I think, in a mall, maybe you were talking a little bit. People were kind of passing by in front of you. The guy that was interviewing you, though, I feel like in the clip, people wanted to see so much more, or they wanted to hear so much more from you than what they saw in that clip. Was that a full interview, or was that just a clip that was planned, or was that just kind of something that happened?
I honestly wouldn't even call it a clip. The gentleman that was interviewing me is at CG3 Music. He also does a lot of social media stuff. He just turned 30, so happy birthday to him. He does a lot of what you normally see on social media, fill in the lyrics. Would you do this? Would you do that? What if you woke up as a girl? And it was Memorial Day weekend. I went out to grab a hat and the sunglasses I actually have on my jacket in that clip because I had a fishing trip the next day. He approached me and said, hey, could I interview you, do some stuff for my Instagram? I said, yeah, sure, whatever. That clip that went viral was probably his 8th or 9th attempt to get some good usable footage. And you can tell he's just getting frustrated. And I really felt like there's no need to get frustrated. You're absolutely in a crowded public space on a holiday weekend. You need to be accommodating to your space and understanding of what's going on around you. And for the people that are asking, like, oh, well, what else happened? What else happened is I said goodbye, good luck, and went to buy a hat.
So you just happened to meet this guy in the mall, and he just kind of pulled you to the side, and that's how that happened. It just happened.
Pure
like
happenstance.
Okay, I just saw people asking in the comments, so I was curious about it. And what's interesting is you said that was his 8th or 9th take at trying to get some usable content, and that viral clip happened on accident.
Yep, that wasn't planned.
Part.
It's if you look at everything else he's posted, it's like one of the more recent ones that he did that blew up for him is asking somebody if they'd pick cotton for $350 an hour. And just the reaction. He tries to play that stone face where he doesn't respond to things. He just gets all bug-eyed and looks at them, and he'll move the mic back to himself and purposely not say anything and move it back to them. So if you look at all the other content he puts out, anybody looks at what he does, they can see that wouldn't have been planned based on what he does.
Interesting. Okay. So for you, what was it like after realizing that clip was going viral on Instagram and it started to blow up? How did that kind of play out for you from beginning to where you are now?
I would say that's probably the funniest part. I didn't have an Instagram until about 3 weeks after that clip blew up. I didn't even believe it was blowing up until a good buddy of mine from high school sent me a Twitter link to Dexter, DEXTRO magazine, which does like a lot of PC gaming kind of stuff, that had reposted it. And I was like, wait, that's me. And around that same time,
you and I.
around that same time, CG3 reached out to me and told me, "Yo, I need you to make an Instagram. It's not fair that I'm getting this attention when it should be yours."
Oh, so you weren't even on Instagram?
Nope.
This
I
thing
had
was
a
going
Facebook
crazy.
I used for my own personal use, and then like Reddit, and that's it.
So that shit got posted on his page, reposted by someone else. You didn't have an Instagram, started one, and then went to 62,500 followers within what, a couple of months now it's been probably?
I hit 45,000 before December.
Wow. Okay. That's, you know, what's crazy is that so many people spend a life on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, trying to get to those numbers. And you did it. People were trying to get you to those numbers before you even had a fucking Instagram. That's so interesting.
And it's there's been so many people that have reposted it. So the original video that CG3 posted on Instagram has like 2.8 million views. There's a guy over in England, Beard Gang members, who reposted one. That one's at almost 4 million. And somebody on TikTok reposted it, and their original has like 12 or 18 million.
Have they given you any credit for that?
Yes, I'm getting tagged by them. I'm getting tagged by them all the time when there's somebody in the comments asking where I am, who I am, people asking about things, podcast opportunities just like this one that have come up. And I'll see that somebody will tag me in one and be like, "Oh, put some respect on this guy's name. It's at Frog Visage." And I'll hop in the comments myself, just like I did for you. And somebody like, "Yo, who is he?" And I'll just respond, "It's me." I'll try to leave a top-level comment, too, in the hopes that the creator sees it, maybe pins it. Never really seeking, like, oh, everybody should follow me, but more like, oh, hey, wow, I can't believe this is going around again. Hi.
To go around as different pages pick it up and post it, then, you know, more and more people will see it, right? There's hundreds of millions of people on Instagram, if not over 1 billion now. I haven't looked at the last user count for a while, but another question that I saw a lot of people ask in the comments was, and one that we want to know as well, has this opened up any opportunities for you in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say they're large opportunities. So I have one post on my account. Actually lost me about 25,000 followers. And it's me with a fishnet undershirt, a crop top, and a beanie. And what it was is a company reached out and said, "Hey, we want to send you some free stuff and you'll just make a post about it." I challenged myself. I said, "You know what? Why can't guys wear crop tops?" That was the thought process. So I put together something and said, "Can I make this work?" I don't think the outfit looked really good on me, but I'm never going to take that post down because I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to explore new things. Even if you're not comfortable, even if it doesn't work, you'll learn something. And
right,
from
that was the message in your original post as well, or the viral clip. Anyway.
And from that one opportunity of one company reaching out and be like, "Oh, hey, are you open to this?" The people that made the jacket I'm wearing, Valeza, brought me out when I went to an anime convention, and I hung out with them. They brought me out to an after party, real like company representation things, and now we're working with them to build an affiliate program with them. And I'm also an affiliate with Anime Gear Guru, who sells some really nice stuff. So there's been a little bit, but I try to be really careful with who I want to work with, because I don't want to dedicate my energy or time or trust that people have in me to something I wouldn't use.
Well, the interesting thing, and so I'll be honest, I don't know much about anime. Okay, but what I take away from what you just said was like there were certain people, or a large number of people rather, that either took issue with what you put on for that, or took offense to it in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to make assumptions as to why they may or may not have unfollowed you for that, but for you, you said you challenged yourself, which is great. Because I'll be honest, I looked at that post too, and it piqued my curiosity. But personally, I don't give a shit what people wear. It's not my business, right? So I did not know what that post was inspired by, or what it was for. That was just me perusing your Instagram, so I didn't read every single post. right? I just skimmed by that one, trying to figure out a little bit about who you were so I knew what my talking points were going to be for the podcast, right? But that opened doors for you and it got you into different spaces that you otherwise would have not been in an area of interest for you or a hobby or whatever it is for you that you otherwise, again, would have never gotten into that you like to do. And has that opened up any opportunities for you monetarily?
Opportunities, yeah, but I'm very much where I am in life. I'm really risk averse right now, so I don't want to go all in on dedicating my time to an affiliate program that may or may not show results when I have possible career growth opportunity with where I work. Does that make sense?
So it does a little bit, but for the people that are going to listen to this podcast, when you say, I want to touch on two things you just said. When you say it's a little bit more, you want to be more risk adverse, right? What do you mean by that? And then follow that up with the career opportunities. Like what career opportunities are you looking for from that?
So when I say risk averse in this case, we all only have so much time and so much energy in a day. I work full time. We're just ramping our season back up because I work a seasonal position for a lawn fertilizer company. So once we hit, actually Friday is my first full day out treating lawns again. We're going to do a 10-hour day, then Monday is a 10-hour day, then Tuesday's a 10-hour day. On top of that, I still need time to eat, sleep, take care of myself. I have a girlfriend. I have a dog you can see in the background there. So for me to, try to go all in on an affiliate program for the clothing company that's investing, not even necessarily investing in a better camera or anything, but the time and energy to learn how to pose, how to promote these things, to drive traffic to those links, to generate an income for myself. I don't know if that's worth my time and energy as opposed to taking my 10-and-a-half-year-old dog on a hike through the woods and really spending my me time and enjoying that and properly managing my stress levels. And then career growth. The company I work for is growing for our industry at almost an unprecedented rate. In our industry, it's standard to grow 6 to 9%. I think last year we hit 15.8%. And we've been blowing our budgets and our goals out of the water every single year. So as we hire on more team members, we need more locations to accommodate more personnel, which opens managerial positions. And you don't know, maybe we need a new quality assurance guy to take care of a larger area because we're expanding more. I see actual career potential where I could stay with the same company for 10, 15 years, which you go back to the 2000s and the 2008 housing collapse. I feel like a lot of that disappeared from the world, at least in America, at large. So I don't necessarily want to risk giving that up or not giving that the time that it needs in pursuit of something where this might work, it might not, where I am now in life.
That makes sense. But I'll tell you just from my perspective, right? This is just my own personal opinion. I totally get the time management aspect of things and having to make time for your day job, your family, and then this as of now for you, it seems like more of a what it sounds like to me of a side thing for you, and I guess in a way it is, right? But in my business, right, like 02 Elite, for example, I have another company called The Social Agent. That I was a realtor at first. Then I went into digging into lead generation, and that took a considerable amount of time away from my family. And in my situation, I had a wife and I had 2 daughters at the time, one on the way. And I had to decide whether or not it was worth it for me to spend that time. It's a risk reward, situation, right? I decided to put more time into it, not knowing what was going to come out of it. And I don't want to say the numbers on here, but I'll leave that up to people's imagination. But
you've clearly done well for yourself to be able to put together the studio even that you're sitting in now compared to the bedroom with the cracked plaster ceiling I'm sitting in.
And you know where I started? I started in an extra bedroom in a house that I was renting. So it's no different, right? And now 71,000 clients later in almost a decade, here I am. So I will tell you, some things are definitely, and in your words, worth exploring.
I have a 10-year plan with the company that I'm with to grow, along with taking the steps that I need along the way to be able to invest and grow in the social media platform and learning how to generate an income based on it, learning even just the guidelines and what you need to do to be eligible for them. I want to start my own podcast, but I have a minimum audio quality that I expect of myself, a minimum amount of energy I put into it. I recorded a test episode, and you could hear the planes flying by outside with the windows shut in here. Because this is the Colonial Townhouse in New Jersey. This is plaster, a very thin layer of insulation, and then straight to the outside. So for me to...
You want to be able to put together a podcast that, people are not hearing a bunch of background noise. I get it.
So I expect that of me. So I looked into, all right, well, what's the right way to do this? The right way for me to do it is to fix this ceiling, fix these walls, and put up some foam paneling. That doesn't happen for free, and that doesn't necessarily happen quickly when you're living roughly your whole life out of one room.
Right. This is great information for people, by the way. So for people that are in your situation that want to take these next steps into doing their own podcast and growing their following online, they don't all get the same start that you did, right? What you got is awesome. So you got a great start. You got a good following. You got a platform now to start with. So given your situation, right, what are the steps that you're taking to get to the point where you have what you need to soundproof the room, get the camera equipment that you need to get started so that you can get moving in that direction? There's a lot of people that are going to watch this podcast that want to know the answers to those questions.
The first thing I did when I thought about starting my own podcast is research audio quality. The vast majority of people that consume podcast content do not do it in a video format. The overwhelming majority are through Spotify or Apple Podcast. So I looked at the metrics and said, all right, what's the most important thing for me to bring myself to that minimum quality I would expect? The second thing I did was reached out to a couple of podcasts that I listened to and said, oh, hey, I'm interested in starting my own. What equipment do you use? Knowing that I won't reach their standard. But if the brand that they prefer, and I got a universal answer on the brand from all 15 or 18 podcasts I reached out to, which blew me away. So then I looked at that brand and said, all right, well, do they have a cheaper option than the gold standard that I could go and be, I don't need the best equipment to start, but I don't want the worst equipment to start either. If you sound like a jumbled mess and they can hear the static, people don't like hearing that. So I found a minimum that I expected of myself. I researched a brand that I liked and went for that. And then before I published something, I made sure that I would be happy with the product. Because if I don't like the quality of it, I'm not going to want to listen to it.
Were you happy with the quality of that?
Not at all.
No. So if I can ask you what was the brand that they all kind of pushed you towards?
Sure. SHURE. It is what Joe Rogan uses. Chris Van Vliet uses it. Otaku's Anonymous use it. Most vocal recording artists use their ball microphone for live performances. They are fantastic. The problem that I had was not with the microphone. The problem that I had was with the environment and the acoustics where I am now.
That makes sense.
And when you when you learn a little bit more about how sound works, because it's something you need to at least have a courtesy knowledge of if you're trying to turn it into a living, I realized that it's picking up everything that I needed to, and my speaking voice was crisp and clear, but it was also picking up extra things going on in the house, or just like the shaking of my desk, like that, little things.
Yeah, honestly, dude, I think you can get away with what you're looking for with Rode mics, right? That's what we're using. Cuts out a lot of the background noise, gives you great sound quality, and they're not going to break the bank. They're not stupid expensive. I think I paid $700-800, and that was for 4 full mic setups. So you can get them for $300.
The Shure that I ended up picking up was $79.
Gotcha. Okay. So spend a little bit more than that, and you'll, not too much more. you'll get a better quality mic. Hopefully you were able to send that one back since it didn't work for you.
Oh, like I said, the mic itself wasn't the problem because I took it to a couple other environments that I don't have normal routine access to, and it sounded fantastic there. I mean, when I say this is the colonial townhome, I mean when the town I live in was still all farmland, this was the townhome. We dug up part of the backyard and found the foundation for the outhouse.
Gotcha. So I'm going to steer us back towards, I think, what a lot of people want to kind of hear on the podcast. This was great information, by the way, for people that are definitely wanting to kind of see the road that you went down and where you're going from here. But I saw a lot of people, asking what I think is kind of a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it because people want to hear it, right? That guy asked you on that podcast as well, are you an AI? I'm sure you're getting a lot of that right now. Obviously, I know the answer to that question. But for those people out there that their minds go, in many different directions, what is your response to people that have asked you that, or the people that are asking that in the comments?
I'm just another human being. The answer sounded real quick, off the cuff, and practiced, and that's because it's how I live my life. It's very, very easy to speak the rules that you live by into existence. Very easy. And funnily enough, I've come to embrace it. That's actually my nickname at work now.
What's that?
AI.
Oh, so they call you AI at work now?
Yep.
That's funny. Does that bother you at all, or you just find it amusing?
The only thing that bothers me is when somebody's like, "Oh, he must be Chat." I'm drawing a blank on the second half.
Chat GPT.
Thank you. In real life, and I'm like, no, I'm just a person, and they're like, oh no, well that's exactly what they want you to think. I'm like, or you can just look up my name and go see I've had a Facebook profile since 2013.
And those are the people I'm talking about, right? The conspiracy theorists that think that the robots roam the earth and all that stuff. Those are the individuals I'm talking about. So when that whole situation happened, right, people were running through, walking through the camera. Obviously, the cameraman was, or the interviewer was, getting frustrated for no reason, right? You can't expect people not to walk in front of your camera in the middle of a crowded store, or a crowded mall. But when you said what you said, right? Obviously, it struck a nerve with a lot of people, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. You said that's how you lived your life. How did you come to that perspective? What are the things that led you to that perspective?
So coming out of high school, I worked at McDonald's, and it was nobody is coming in McDonald's and actually upset with you that there was pickles on their burger or that whatever little thing you got wrong. They're not actually upset at you. That was just the final thing in a long set of circumstances, and you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for somebody to blow up. Really taking a step back and thinking, like, even when I'm upset with something, am I really upset at that thing, or is it just everything else going on? And how often is it an honest mistake, like, oh, I actually did just forget, versus somebody sabotaging you? Like, how many times in my individual life did I go out of my way to be in the way or injure somebody? And I couldn't think of one real time. And I was like, there's no way that everybody else is out to get you if that's the way I'm living my life.
I like it. That's a great perspective. So my next question kind of leads right into what you just said. So I've seen and watched many of your videos, right? You seem to be pretty upbeat about life and about a lot of things. How do you stay so optimistic and positive day to day, which leads you to be able to come to the conclusions like you came to on that viral clip that you were in?
I wouldn't say that I stay positive. I think that's something a lot of people get wrong. The world factually is safer than ever before. That does not mean that it is safe. We have better access to nutrition and information, yet we have an obesity problem. It's not because the food is worse. The food overall is better. The quality of life is better. You show a farmer from the Middle East a microwave and you're getting burned at a stake. You know what I mean? but it's our perception of it and really how we look at it. It's very easy to focus on the negatives and think everything is spiraling downward. You just need a couple things to go right, and it kind of balances out, and that's really a lot of what I think of. I try to find the good in something that went bad, so I'm not fixating on that downward spiral.
Can you give us another example? That's an interesting perspective. Never looked at things like that before. And that's why people want to follow you, right? Because I think your perspectives and your outlook on things like that are different than most people, right? You said, and I'm going to try to quote you here because I want to say it the exact way you just said it, but you said, the world is a safer place, but it's not actually as safe as we think. I may be butchering that.
I've said it in a couple other podcasts. So think back to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and crime reports and serial killers being on the loose. And you'd go down the street and everybody would be like, oh, all right, whatever. And now we have bicycle laws and people are like, oh, well, when I was a kid, I didn't have to wear a helmet and we turned out just fine. Yeah, all of you that lived. So the world, if you look at crime statistics and disappearances, it is a safer place than ever before. That is factual information. Maybe not right this minute with different wars and global things going on, but it's not like Britain and France are going to war over rice every 4 years like they did 200, 300, 400 years ago. That does not mean we're in a safe place. It's just safer. So when you see on the news that X amount dead, this going on, that going on, they're just trying to drive your engagement there. Think about your day-to-day life and how often are you walking down the street and actually seeing any of this stuff happen. That doesn't mean you don't pay attention to it and be aware that it could happen, but that you recognize that it's not as it seems to be from the outside. Does that?
Most people are kind of just walking in their own little bubble and only self-aware of the certain things that go on within their general, I don't want to say vicinity, but their little network, their group of people, right? That makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to what you just said, because I certainly do. That's an interesting perspective, and that's exactly what I mean. I think when I said a lot of people, or for myself, when I said, how do you stay so optimistic and positive? I think people kind of, and this goes back to what you just said, kind of get lost in the perspective they see just from your social media, right? So anybody can make anything look great. The news can make anything look safe or safer, but it may not actually be the case, right? Until you start thinking outside of the box, so to speak, or opening up your horizons and looking at the bigger picture. So you yourself, right? You seem to be, pretty self-aware, and your advice to the audience in the clip that you were in was to be more self-aware. How do you make yourself more self-aware, and how do you come to how did you come to that realization of just in that specific instance for those people that were just kind of moving around, and what your analysis of that?
I'd say the easiest way to start becoming more self-aware is to relate it to your own physicality. You can look at me even in this video. I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'5", and the heaviest I've ever been is 135 pounds. I am not a large physical human being. There is a plateau to what I am physically capable of doing. So when I was nearing that point, at that point in my life, there were still some things I just couldn't do. Very realistically, I couldn't bench 250, 260 at that body weight. And I tried to put on more, and I couldn't at that point in my life. I physically couldn't eat that much. I was overeating, getting sick from it. And it was very much so, I've reached a limit in what I can accomplish right now. And that's okay. There's some things that I just can't do, and that's okay. And then if it was something that had to get done, I had to move that dresser. I either found a mechanical advantage, a hand truck or something, thought outside of just lift heavy thing, or I found help. I approached somebody and said, yo, give me a hand with this. And that grew to just thinking about like, no, I don't need to be upset about that. I don't have the energy to be angry right now. I'm just going to let it go. I don't feel like dealing with it. And that grew to, why did I ever get angry about that in the first place?
Interesting way to look at things, to keep yourself grounded, really, is that's your approach to keep yourself kind of more calm and analyze things a little bit differently than others. And again, I think that's what people want to hear from you for sure. So I've got a couple more questions before we close out. This is me and just interested. Has anyone through that clip and through the other things that you've posted online approached you about coaching, or have you yourself thought about possibly coaching others through various aspects? But in my question, I'm specifically asking about life coaching, right? Some of the advice that you give leads me to feel like you might be able to coach people.
I personally despise the term life coaching. A coach is meant to guide you to success or to be better in some way, shape, or form. Only you can live your life. Only you can decide what you want out of your life. I'm not super financially successful. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not on an NFL team. I flunked out of college because public transportation was running late. These aren't things that people relate to success, but people still see me and my mindset and say that's successful. So I like to say that if I'm coaching somebody, I'm helping coach their mindset in a more positive direction.
That is what I'm talking about. So I think a lot of people tend to think, because I am in a lot of ways a coach, I guess. I'm mostly a trainer, and I do help people generate more business for their company and more leads and more opportunity to close business and grow as an individual, right? In that regard, from a financial perspective, right? So in that regard, you are correct. I think a lot of people do, look at the term life coaching as some form of, you're going to help me get to the next level, like fucking Tony Robbins or some shit like that, right? So, hopefully cursing doesn't bother you.
Not at all. I'm a hardcore metalhead. Okay. I just, you know how it is. You start doing something related to business, and you're like, all right, that's the professional persona.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of that shit, right? So glad we covered that. I should have covered that with you early on in the podcast, because there would have been a whole lot more fucks and shits in there. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. But I also think that there's those people out there that find individuals like yourself and other people that just have a different mindset. And like what you said earlier, right? When you can't do certain things, that's okay. If you're not a certain size or weight, that's okay too, right? When I think of life coach, for me, I'm not looking for someone to help me be more successful. I am looking for someone to do exactly what you just said. Help me with my mindset on certain things. Because what you said is you do certain things to try, why did I get angry about that? Why did I get upset about this? I tend to be that person. That, right, I'm not a big guy either. I'm 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. It depends on what shoes I'm wearing, right? But I'm a bigger guy. 230 to 250 is where I tend to kind of float around and weight, but I have limitations because of some surgeries that I've had recently that limit things that I can do. 1 minute I was able to, lift 350 on a bench. Now I've been dumbed down to using bands and
let me do exactly what I've done, because I have done some mindset coaching for people. I've had people reach out and say, I really value you. I had somebody offer me $600 an hour. Taking that money from them, that might be what they can afford. I don't want you to feel dependent on me. That's not the point of my coaching. I'm there to help you. Reasonable expense to you, that's fine. If the reasonable expense to you isn't reasonable as what I consider my time worth, we can negotiate, we can work on something. I'm sure you've had plenty of experience like that, where maybe somebody offers something way over asking price. You said you did realty before, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, that maybe doesn't sit right with you for some reason.
I'll give you a response, because on the from the side of the coaching perspective, right? So they're in field. So what I do mainly is I teach business professionals. I got really popular in the real estate space for lead generation, to help them have more opportunity to find buyers and sellers for the properties that they're trying to sell, or buyers that want to look, right. But I work with a various different multitude amount of industries, and I work in doctors' offices and restaurants and salespeople, car salesmen, you name it. I just got really popular in that space, right? Now, there are individuals out there and in this field that charge 5, 10 grand for a setup, whereas I only charge 1,000, 1,500 maybe. It's a significant amount of work that it takes me to set all this up, right? So I don't do just talking to them and helping them. I set up all their advertising. I create all the creatives. I do all the back end integrations, all of that stuff, right? I have tested if I could get 5 to 10 grand, and I can, but I don't. I pride myself on knowing that I charge people a reasonable amount, because I don't want, and this all comes back to what you just said, by the way. I don't want to just help the people that can afford 5 to 10 grand. I want to be able to help the people that can't afford that. I want to help the little guy that needs that shift in business. I'm not a mindset coach, right? That's not what I do. But I do coach people in business and help them figure out where their problems lie and help them fix those problems so that they can continue to scale and grow their business. And in your case, it comes back to what you just said, right? You don't want to charge people too much money just because you can, right? You want to charge people a reasonable amount, right? I think in a lot of cases, a lot of people from a mindset perspective, especially if they find value in you, will pay upwards of $1,000, $2,000. I personally don't think, and this is not just because I might be able to afford it, but because I think most people would willing and able to pay that amount of money to help them grow. But it's a noble thing for you to do that. I think you should find an amount that's not just reasonable for other people, but will enable you to grow. Because
So
I think if you think of it from the perspective I'm about to give you.
shortly before the video that you commented on went viral, over the winter during my winter layoff, I put out a poll on a story when I went to a work event, or we had a Christmas party, where I sent out to everybody that follows me on the Instagram stories, if I were to start offering mindset coaching, would you be interested? And the 3 options on the poll were yes, no, and only if it's free. I then personally sent a message to everybody that said yes and said, hey, I don't know where you are in the world or what your economic situation is like. Consider a fair price for 1 hour of one-on-one counseling. And I got all kinds of answers. And I reached out to everybody that said only if it's free. And I said, hey, is there any special reason you're only interested in this if it's free? Is it a price point? Is it that you don't know what you can afford kind of thing? And that led to a lot of fruitful conversations. And I do have a price in mind for when people reach out to me, but I don't advertise that I do it because I don't want people thinking that I can force them to change. They still have to be willing to do that work. And it's a lot more on me going, well, why is that? Do you think that helps? Yeah. And in your, just for you personally, you say you used to bench 350, and now you're back down to using resistance bands?
My max, by the way, I don't want anybody to think I'm full of shit, but I have maxed well over 300 before.
Now,
yes.
Know your whole story. I don't know exactly what surgeries you went through. Do you think you're stuck at resistant bands, or that you're just currently at resistance bands?
No, I'm 100% stuck there. Like, I'll tell you, just quick and short. I had a reflux surgery, went wrong, had a bunch of stomach surgeries after that, laparotomies. So my esophagus, diaphragm, they're stitched together now. So I literally cannot ever bench that amount of weight ever again, or I risk popping it and having to have that surgery all over again. Then I had a heart surgery shortly after that, totally unrelated. So doing those kind of things are physically impossible for me now. Well, rephrase, not impossible, could damage me if I try. I'm not willing to take that risk, right?
My advice, especially
But
if you had been a gym going person, is to say, hey, that's okay. Not every work truck runs forever. Sometimes you have to change up and repurpose. So instead of focusing on, I used to bench this, well, what can you do now that's different? How have you evolved and changed and grown?
and that, my friend, is exactly what I'm talking about, right? That is the kind of stuff, the kind of information and the kind of mindset shift that people need. So, just from a business person that's doing this, that also shares the same sentiment as you of not wanting to take advantage of people just because, or take that amount just because you can, I would take that poll that you have, right, and put the free people to the side, because a lot of those are going to be people that are willing to take advantage of you. Just be honest. I've been there. I've done a lot of free pro bono stuff,
Uh,
and a lot of them become your worst nightmare.
but
What I would
believe it
do
or
for
not,
you,
the overwhelming majority of the only if it's free were people under the age of 18 who don't have an income.
and you may, and for those people, for those individuals, those kids, you may actually be able to do kind of like some sort of group mindset training for them, just to give you an idea. So it's not taking up a bunch of your time. One-on-one's probably not the answer for that, because you said yourself you're time constrained, right? But for the people that, and here's what I was going back to earlier, I would take the amount of money that those people told you from the high end to the low end, all the way through, average them out, and there's your number, right? That's your number. If that comes out to 372, 375 is your number an hour, right? Round it up, round it down, so it's even, right? Kind of weird if you told somebody 372 an hour, okay? But that, what I'm saying is, like, those people, you're right in the middle. You may lose some people. Some of the higher people, be sure, hell yeah, I'll do it. Those middle people, perfect. That will allow you to grow financially, but also help a lot more people, man. Because when you get to the point where you're consistently, say you're working 4 or 5 hours a day, you're at let's call it $300 for an hour for easy math, right? That's $1,500. You've just shortened down your day, your work day. You've alleviated a lot of pressure on yourself, not from time, but from a financial perspective. Say you did it 5 days a week, took weekends off, $7,500 a week. Now you've got more time in your day to either spend with your family, work in the evening time, figure out some more mindset, material that you come up with to help specific individuals in specific parts of their life. You're making money for you, but you're also opening yourself up and to a whole world of other individuals that can use that mindset shift that you're there to give them. And you can't do that for free, right? It's just physically impossible. You can't do it because you still got to work, and now all your extra time is being given away for free. Doesn't make sense. You help more people and yourself by being able to come up with a reasonable amount, charge that amount, help them. They're going to tell other people. Those people are going to come to you, and you're going to change lives as a result. I don't consider what I do life-changing, but other people, I think, would beg to differ, because my clients, if you go, when we get off of here, I'll friend you on Facebook. I'll add you to my group, The Social Agent. I want you to read through some of those posts. I'd like to work with you a lot more in the future. I want you to read through some of those posts. There's probably 35,000, 40,000 reviews in that group of people that just post their reviews. So they're real people. You can look at their profiles. You can see if they're real. You can see where they're at in life. A lot of them go from, sub 50,000 a year, which is nothing this day and age, where most people are, right? Especially in Austin, where I live, at $50,000, you're basically, you got to have 3 roommates to live here on that, right? Or it's right. And that's what I'm saying, right? Those people need help. That is why, and those are the same people on your side. Those people need help. And you can't do it for free for every one of those people. You got to be able to make money and have time to come up with material and buy the right equipment to be able to help those people, right? So you do it that way. How you doing? So again, right? I want you to read through those because a lot of what I'm telling you is what you can do is what I'm doing right now, just in a different vertical. Okay, and we'll do that when we're off the podcast. But just to close this out, because we're running over on time, and most people won't watch podcasts that are too long or listen to podcasts that are too long. If you had any advice for people just around self-awareness as a whole, what would that be?
You can always mend something that's strained. You can't always mend something that's broken. You can always rest and give your body a chance to recover. You can't always fix a broken bone. It's far better to take a step back before it gets to a breaking point, even if it means stepping away from obligations or promises or friendships, and take the time to make sure you yourself are okay so that you don't cause irreparable damage to something you care about.
I love it, man. Dude, it was great to have you on the podcast, and I'd love to talk with you more offline about those aspirations to help people in that regard. Maybe you don't call it life coaching. Maybe you call it mindset coaching, right? I look at them as one and the same. I don't really relate life coaching to success just because of what I do, but I agree a lot of people do. So call it mindset coaching because that's what it seems to be, a lot of mindset shift for you. Dude, it was great having you on the podcast. I will post Robert's Instagram out there for those of you who want to follow him. Robert Lambertino, for those of you who are just listening, it's frog_VISAGE. Is that right?
Yep.
On Instagram. Dude, thank you again for being a part of the podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
I am also on TikTok and Twitch with that same name.
Okay, awesome. So they can find you on those.